Welcome to Shapers of the Snow, a show dedicated to the small independent builders handcrafting skis and snowboards around the world. We sit down with the shapers to hear how they got started, the art behind their craft, the real challenges they face, and what continues to fuel their passion for creating shapes for the snow. Grab a beer or a coffee, and let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Shapers of the Snow. I'm your host, Josh, and today we have Tyler from.
Stormsurf Powder Products.
How you doing today?
Great, Josh. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, no problem. So, to start with, how did you get into snowboarding and like product development and everything like that? Just kind of like how you got to where you are now, basically.
Yeah, I got into snowboarding at a really young age. My parents bought me like one of those black snowboards, the plastic ones with the loop strap kind of binding system on it. I must have been maybe fourth or fifth grade, and used that at the local sledding hills and made small jumps in my yard. And then in sixth grade, my parents bought me a used like Burton Air snowboard. I learned on that at the local sledding hills, and there was a very small, I'll call it a ski area near my parents' house that had a rope tow. I used to go there and just learned to snowboard on that. Didn't stop snowboarding, and then throughout high school and things, I got competitive with it. Used to travel around the Midwest, Wisconsin and Michigan, to go do different slope style and half pipe competitions and like border cross competitions, and had a lot of fun with that. Growing up in the Midwest, I always really wanted to experience the mountains. So um, during my freshman year of high school, took the train out to Montana, got to experience the out west bigger mountains for the first time, and I was hooked. And I took four consecutive trips throughout high school out to Montana. Just was hooked, and I knew that as soon as I got done with high school, I wanted to move out west and just live in the mountains. I did that, but I did stay around in Wisconsin for a little while. I got a technical degree in machining and welding. So that's where I kind of got my foundation of manufacturing, design, and things. I'm a machinist. I'm a career machinist, and that's what I do currently today for a living. Uh, anyways, that's like kind of the first start of introduction into snowboarding.
Awesome. So early beginning, started Midwest, then you just wanted real mountains.
Yeah, exactly. I got the taste of powder and was hooked.
Yeah, happens to a lot of people. You get that one taste of powder, and you're like, oh, I chase this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, still am today. Yep.
Now you're making your own boards. What got you into that?
Yeah. So I have a really good friend who's an engineer, and he started making his own skis around 2016. And he was chasing uh, a product that wasn't currently available. We're both very into touring, so into the backcountry. I ride probably less than I ride about 5 to 10 days a year at the resort, so very little resort time, and most of the time is just spent chasing powder. And at the time, there wasn't any really lightweight, wide powder skis available, especially ones with long rocker and just floated really well. And also very lightweight. So he started making skis for himself, and they worked amazing. And he always encouraged me to make my own snowboards, and just the timing wasn't right with my job. I was just so busy at work, and I couldn't just afford the time to do it. And then eventually I had the time around in 2022 is when 2021, the winter of 2021 is when I first made my first split powsurfer. And the reason I started with a split powsurfer was the current ones that were available and the ones that I was using just didn't offer the float and speed that I was looking for in the high alpine terrain that I was riding in. So I really wanted to make a board with a really long, gradual tip rocker that was felt really surfy, and that it really worked well for what I was chasing.
Okay, and what we're chasing, which is what is the terrain you're
I was
riding in, like wide open and big, and you want something that can.
Yeah, yeah, all the training that I have available here is just definitely more wide open, and also just steeper runs, the 30 to 35-degree runs. I was really just lacking that the board when you would slash the power surfer I was using, like when you slashed it just killed a bunch of speed and wouldn't regain the speed quickly. So I really wanted a board that would just hold speed really well, kind of like a traditional snowboard.
Okay. And were those early boards you were trying to get speed on, were they plastic based or were they epoxy or wood? Do you know?
Yeah, they were a PTEX base board, but it wasn't ground like centered, like a from the ski shop, which really helps in the speed. And the bases were 3D, which definitely scrubs a lot of speed also.
When you started getting to building everything, were you using your friend's shop or did you make your own shop?
Yeah, I started out in my friend's garage because he had all the. Essentially, I just got to utilize all his information, all his knowledge, and got to really kind of got a kickstart in it to make the boards. I did have to make my own tooling for the to make the core thickness and various things, but for the most part, he had everything and just utilized his knowledge and made the first one. And so I did the first one. The first slope stop powsurfer I made essentially took most of the winter to do it, and I finished it in late March. And so by the time late March comes around, the powder doesn't really last as long, or it maybe comes in funky because it comes on top of maybe a spring sun layer thing. So I only got to ride the first board I made maybe a handful of times before the season kind of ended there. And then I right away knew what I wanted to change for the future boards, and it was a good starting point. Eventually, as I made a started making really getting into it, making more boards for myself, and I branched off into making split snowboards. I wouldn't say branched off, but just started making split snowboards as well. And that was a whole learning curve with figuring out flex patterns to get the right flex of the boards. But eventually, working with out of my friend's garage, just challenges with just keeping the shop warm and things like that. So we eventually moved a vacuum table setup to where my shop where I work out of. So we just do all the things that require heat essentially that to maintain a good temperature throughout the process at my house, and then or in my shop, and then we do the rest of the processes on our own equipment.
Okay. So you're using vacuum bagging to pick the boards?
I am, yeah. I really like the vacuum bag because it offers so much flexibility. I also the main reason I well, A, it's really easy to do, but also I really like the ability to do a 3D tip on my snowboards, and then a 3D tail like channels on my boards. All my split boards and all my powder surfers, I do a pretty aggressive 3D tip on it also. So the corners rise up quite a bit just to not grab the snow as well, just to kind of slip through the snow easier. I put channels in the tails that kind of almost like they kind of look like rudders in a way. Not sure how effective they are, but they look really cool. So that's one advantage I really like about the vacuum setup is it's just so versatile for those 3D shapes, and especially all the split boards and split surfers I make, the board clips go that hold the boards together. There's always a bump out there because the cores are really thin. If you had a traditional that press, it's challenging because then you have to somehow relieve the top middle part. So it just makes manufacturing way more challenging as soon as you introduce some sort of 3D type of stuff onto your decks.
Yeah, most definitely. So are you making that kind of spoon shape with are you making custom molds with it?
Yeah, so I have a 3D printer at work. Sorry, I have a 3D printer at work, but also I have a laser engraver. So a laser engraver is a tool that you can cut various materials on and engrave on various materials. And so I actually use just paperboard from the craft store, and I just cut out the 3D shape on the, or sorry, I cut out a shape on the with the laser engraver on the using paper, and I just keep offsetting the shape like a certain distance, and then I glue all those pieces together. So it creates basically a really super affordable 3D mold essentially for the vacuum press. And since the paperboard it's a 10 thousandths thick, so it's not compressible, so it's works great for the application. So it's just a really easy way to make 3D molds essentially for my backing press setup.
That's a great idea. Just portable and easy,
Yeah,
effective.
yeah, it really like because as soon as you take it out of the press, like you pretty much destroy the paper mold. So it needs to be disposable. So it needs to just to be a very cheap process or very cheap material that doesn't you don't need to worry about.
Now, I had some questions about the PAL boards. You're making split PAL boards. You're machining all the components for the hardware yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing I do. So with split pow surfing, like there's nothing out there. Like you can't just go buy accessories for it. It's such a niche, super small market. So there's just nothing available. So I guess a little backstory on that is when I first started pow surfing, split pow surfing, I would approach into the like all the approaches here in Montana. You utilize summer single tracks to access the higher mountain terrain. And a lot of times they're long approaches, a lot of times flat, but very gradual slopes. But then they're all hard pack, of course, from people skiing out of them or the skin track set that's in it. And so I would carry a little kid's snowboard on my back as I'm skinning up the single track. And then I would ditch the kid's snowboard roughly 4+ miles up that single track in a spot that I knew I was going to come back to at the end of the day. And then after I'm done surfing the high country, I would come back to that kid's snowboard and I would strap into the kid's snowboard and snowboard down the single track and put the my pow surfer on my back. So it's really cumbersome, heavy, but effective. And I always knew there was a better way. And so what I did is I ended up putting split, board pucks on my split pow surfers as well. So that way and then I had to create a special binding as well to be able to also tour with on the uphill, but that's really low profile and minimal, so it can go in your backpack on the pow surf down. But then also when you get to the spot where you need to potentially snowboard out to the car or wherever you happen to be, you can still do that. So what I did is I took a Spark R&D base plate and then made my own really low profile heel loop on it out of nylon. And then then I took a standard Spark high back and I affixed a kind of a bolt mechanism to where the high back attaches to the heel loops. And then I slotted the heel loops so the high backs can be removable. So for instance, when you're touring up from the vehicle, I just keep the high backs in my backpack, and then if I need them at the end of the day, I can just put the high backs. I can clip the high backs into the touring bindings that I made, and then slide those Spark base plates onto the pucks that are on the split pal server, and it works really well. The like you can even use it at a resort. For instance, our local resort here, Bridger Bowl, has an area that you can take a couple chairlifts up to, and then go out into the side country, and it works great for that location. So you can pow surf that side country, and then still snowboard back to the resort or to the vehicle. It's not like you wouldn't want to ride this board all day long at the resort. It's more of kind of just get you out of the mountains safely and effectively. In getting into split pow surfing, there was really no tools or information available for it, and I also needed a way to hold the two halves of the boards together. So I came up with a really low profile touring bracket that uses a standard, like a quick release style mechanism to hold the boards together. So it's a threaded rod that threads into one of the holes in the touring bracket, and then I made a cam lever that locks the two halves together. And then with those touring brackets, lot of standard or these standard touring brackets for split boarding use three mounting holes. And with pow surfing, essentially you want to be as far back on the board as you can when you're in steeper, aggressive terrain. You can definitely go forward more stance when you're in more mellow, maybe not quite as aggressive style riding. But to achieve that, one thing that's challenging with a split pow surfer is as soon as you move you have to have your touring bracket so far back so your front foot can stand in front of the touring bracket, which makes the board, really nose heavy, we'll call it, when you're touring uphill. So that's one disadvantage of having the touring bracket so far back on the center line of the board, but it's necessary just to be able to make the whole application work. I only mount my touring brackets with two mounting holes, so you can also you can stand even closer to the touring bracket than a traditional one, which uses three mounting holes. So I'm able to just get my traction pins as close as I can to those touring brackets and still have the touring brackets as far as forward as possible, so you can still have the board tour. We'll call it the best it can with the setup. So that's one thing that's like is hard with split pow surfing is some of the many other makers out there that make them is they try to balance where to put the touring bracket. And a lot of times it's right where you want your front foot to be, which really inhibits the surfability of the board. And then I also make all my own hardware that goes inside the board, like all the M6 and M5 board hardware. And I machine those out of titanium. I put a bunch of through holes in them, and also I make them hex heads. So there's just no way they're going to spin in once you put them in your cores. Because I also like machine all my cores with that same hex hex contour bore in it that matches the hex in the hardware. So just a much more robust interface there.
Yeah, better interlocking between the hardware and the core itself.
Yeah, I make all my own cores, or I lay up all my own cores here at my shop. I start with ash, and thing that I really like is a really damp board, not over damp, but just damp. And I found that stringers of cork work really well for that. So I'll sandwich some cork stringers that are 3/8 wide between some of my ash layup or ash stringers in my cores.
All right, and how is that mill?
Yeah, cork does totally fine. It's like really, really soft. It's basically cork is rubber, so it's really soft material. Yeah, it mills like it's super easy. Doesn't even affect anything.
Sandwiching between wood. I haven't really heard of anyone doing that before.
I got that idea from my friend. My friend that got me into board building. I mean, he's very intelligent and it's always really innovative, and it's something he tried, and I wanted to try it myself, and I was just blown away of how effective it was. It also is really light, so it works good for my touring cores. So like every board I make, I do a different core. We'll call it layup. So like my my true backcountry boards, like I'll put Polonia in between some of the hardwood layers, the corks, and also between some of the ash. So just try to make it as light as possible. But I really felt that like when I've made full Polonia cores before, I just really feel they're not a good ride. It doesn't take on absorb bumps very well. It's just a very dead feeling board. I really shy away from putting too much Polonia in the course and try to work with more of the hardwood. And I really just like the ride quality of the hardwood board or course.
Yeah, ash isn't a very common one, but I've used it myself, and it definitely has a very good response when you put energy in. You gain the same amount of energy back out of it, pretty much. Have you noticed that?
I have. I guess I don't have a lot of time of maybe going back to back with various cores. The time that I have spent on them, I've been pleased with it for sure.
Does the cork need like a special adhesive? Or are you just using standard wood glue?
Yeah, just standard wood glue works. Yeah, it's very easy to work with. Yeah, just use standard wood glue when I'm clamping the rough sawn wood together. Yeah, it works fantastic. And then with my cores, I mill like where all the hardware is going to go. I mill a pocket in there and then inset a hardwood piece into the cores, like where all the touring brackets will go, or the board clips go as well, just to ensure that every location that has a piece of hardware is most robust as it possibly can be. The first board I made, again, like this is figuring things out. The first board I made, I didn't have hardwood where my board hardware was. Over time, it pulled up, it started to suck into the core material. It just wasn't a robust setup. And I've since switched over to like every piece of hardware, I put a piece of Kevlar under it as well. So there's aramid between the core and the hardware as well. So it's just trying to get the most robust setup or interface that I can.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
Kevlar, reinforced hardwood, and titanium. That's pretty solid right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I have made hardware out of stainless as well. Like for my solid boards, I make a one piece stainless board pack, we'll call it. And so it's six M6 holes that are all machined out of a piece of stainless. Just because I wanted to make a really nice hardware that was never going to move or pull up and like have boards suck, when you just like tighten your bindings. So I just wanted to make the most robust interface possible there.
Okay, so that's like plate with inserts in it.
It's one plate piece of. I start with 1/2 inch by 1 inch stainless bar, and that's like 6 1/4 long, and then just machine all these islands essentially. So imagine like if you just took all a bunch of M6 board hardware and you connected them together. That's what it kind of looks like.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I'm guessing that provides a really solid feeling underfoot.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it really makes a difference with board performance, but I just really like tech and I really enjoy machined parts and kind of just making things unique and pushing the bounds where I can. I guess I really when I make my boards, I really try to play to my strengths, which is manufacturing and machining. So I try to add as many of those elements into the build as possible.
Definitely noticeable on your boards.
Thanks. Yeah.
A quick release system, and you're selling those with sandwich deck right now.
I am, yeah. They're something that Matt from Sandwich Check put on his site last winter, and we sold a few. And I think it's one of those things. They're a little bit expensive, but also it's very niche market. So it's hard to, you'd have to be a very unique builder that would be chasing that particular product.
Now, do you use those guys to get all composites?
I do use them. I also try to like other board builders, try to, just buy a little bit of product from them. Shady Skis in Michigan, they sell some of their products or some of their materials. Kind of get everything where I can really. Being such a small builder, it's hard to find the materials that you need. So yeah, like getting like different colored base materials and things like that. Like I've met various board builders. I go to this event in Jacksonville, Wyoming, where a bunch of snowboarders at build boards meet called the Shaper Summit, and just met various board builders there and do some trades or purchase some of the materials from them.
Yeah, just source material where you can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is a challenge being a small person, like to get materials, especially if like I've ordered some of the stuff from Europe from Junk Supply, and it's just the shipping's outrageous.
Yeah, anything overseas is always outrageous.
Yeah, yeah.
You're making split paddleboards, split touring snowboards, and carving boards.
Yeah, this last winter I dabbled in carving boards, and the reason being is it was such a kind of very mediocre winter. The backcountry was very inconsistent. So it was just like pow surfing. I wasn't able to pow surf consistently, and same with slipboarding. It just wasn't, we'll call it a typical winter here. And so I was like, well, I really want to. That was something I've always really wanted to make and try. I guess I seek out an elegant turn, and especially some of the Japanese soft boot carvers like just love their turns and really wanted to dabble in that. So I thought it was a great opportunity with this past winter being not the best winter. I just took my time throughout January and February, and by the end of February, I had two softwood carving boards completed, and those ones are I did a layer of Titanol in it just to give the board a really damped, absorbing feel. Those cores as well have it's all ash and stringers of cork, so it's a just really damped ride, especially with the Titanol sheet in it. And then also having I feel like a wood top sheet as well adds another damping characteristic to it as well. And so that was actually the first solid boards I've ever made before, and they went really well. They ride incredible. Like I couldn't believe how good both those boards ride and how well they hold an edge and just cut through anything on the slope. It's a little bit more of a dead board, just being in pretty heavy with the Titanol. Again, I wasn't chasing this lively feel. I was chasing something that really held an edge really well.
Yeah, understandable. You want to be able to lock in on a turn.
Yeah.
Any 3D shaping the nose on that, or just straight camber?
Yeah, those ones I didn't do any 3D shaping. Yep, just straight camber with those. And all my boards I do a poured polyurethane sidewall. So I use my CNC machines here at work and machine in the channel that to then pour the sidewalls in. And I feel like that's like a huge thing for board performance because I use a smooth on 45D. So it's a little bit softer material for the sidewall. And I feel like that material seems to really work well for a little bit, again, adding a little bit of damping and edge vibration reduction to it.
Yeah, I heard that it definitely does. And you do that all the way around the core.
Yeah, I do a full, yep, yeah, full wrap with that. And I haven't played with this yet, but definitely I think it would be something fun to do because Smooth On also makes some really soft materials as well, just to mill some channels in the board. Instead of doing like maybe cork stringers, you could mill some various channels in the board and then pour like a really soft resin in there.
Do you have a vacuum chamber for that to degas it, or how you doing that?
Yeah, it's not required at all. So I just do it in my shop. I actually just use the heat gun, as so you have very little time to do the whole process before it starts to set. So I just pour the epoxy or pour the resin into the channel, and then I just grab the heat gun right away and just start going around the whole edge with the heat gun, and then pulls all the bubbles out. And I haven't had any issue whatsoever. But prior to like after I mill the channel, I do put like polyurethane, like a standard hardware urethane that you get from the hardware store, or polyurethane, I mean, that you get from the hardware store to seal wood. I brush that in to the channel prior to pouring the polyurethane, and that's super important to make sure you don't get any moisture coming out of the wood.
Important step right there to make sure that it's not sucking in moisture or seeping into the core itself, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So that's a key step when you're doing poured polyurethane sidewalls.
Yeah, your cores sound pretty complex.
They are. I mean, there's a lot of effort into the course, but I'm a true believer in like that's like the foundation of your snowboard. Like if you're, that's like where it's going to get all that's the heart and soul of the snowboard. So I feel like it's one of the most important pieces to do, or to not cut corners on, to not overlook things. So yeah, to me, that's like one of the most important parts of it.
For composites, you're using Kevlar, Titanol, are you using
Yeah. Glass.
Triax, any carbon fiber?
No carbon. I feel carbon's hard. It's a hard material because it's doesn't quite have a. I mean, you can definitely get it to work really well, but I find that it's challenging. I haven't been able to. I tried my first one of the first split boards I made was with carbon, and I just was like, this is going to be way too hard to figure out to get the right flex with it. So I just stuck with standard. I use biax and triax. Sometimes like some of my layups, I'll do the biax on the bottom and triax on the top, or vice versa. But yeah, it's just standard fiberglass, nothing special there. I just feel it's a material that works really well. It's really cost effective, and it's I don't know. So I would say it's like pretty easy to get the desired flex that you want. But I do think carbon's great. It's just I just haven't been wanting to chase it.
Yeah, there's a whole learning curve with carbon. It's a much different material than fiberglass.
Yeah, absolutely.
For pow surfing, is that what you want to focus on? Is your end goal to start selling these boards, or have you sold any?
So, I mean, making slip house surfers was how I got into making boards in general because I just needed a better tool for the job, especially one that I could put board pucks on, so I could get out of the mountains easily and effectively. I do not have any intention on wanting to sell my boards, just especially because I use a vacuum setup and I enjoy my day job, and I'm just not looking to make a living at making snowboards. One thing that I would like to do is I would like to grow the kind of the hardware side of things. That's why I started. That's why I called the company Storm Surf Powder Products, or I would call it a company, just the name of things called Storm Surf Powder Products, just to kind of keep it generic, so it would fit well with the hardware and various things I make. So that's what I'd really like to do, is make hardware for custom builders, like on few of the builds I did last year, I machined these really intricate aluminum tip and tail protectors. And in those tip and tail protectors, I machined like a graphic into them as well. So they're really elegant. They work really well. So that's like kind of that's what I'd rather pursue is use my manufacturing strengths to help other custom board builders that want to make some really unique things into their board builds.
Okay, so you're kind of making boards to understand the hardware better.
Well, I'm making boards because I love doing it. I love the. I guess I'm chasing a particular feel while riding, and I feel the only way to do that is to really make your own. Because there's very few manufacturers that make split boards that are true powder boards. A lot of them have camber in them. They're just not like true powder Pacific boards, especially with the 3D nose and just the various things. We'll always continue to still make and push the powder Pacific boards. But yeah,
Okay, yeah. You have a personal goal of making really good snowboards for yourself while working on the hardware.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so like I've only sold some of the boards that I no longer want to just to local friends and things like that. Yeah, no intention to want to sell them or to make a company making snowboards.
Okay. Now that's a cool and different perspective than most people that build boards.
I do understand. It's a hard market to compete in, and there's so many people that do it so well. So I'm just going to stay in my lane and stick to manufacturing, and hopefully that side of things starts to kind of take notice and maybe grow a little bit.
Yeah. Titanium hardware. I don't think there's really too much of that out there, is there?
Definitely not titanium hardware. It's so prohibitive, but again, with my job, I have a lot of off runs of materials and things, so I'm able to use off runs from different jobs to make some of this stuff. So it makes it really cost effective.
Nice. Your boards, I gotta say, they look pretty amazing. There's a lot of skill in your boards. I looked through and saw a sandwich tech shared a bunch of yours, and like your older ones
Oh
with the
yeah,
see-through top sheets. Very elaborate.
yeah. So those graphics were all machined into the cores, and I poured polyurethane into the cores to create those graphics. So those were pretty cool boards. I mean, I want again with those ones, I was trying to play to my manufacturing strengths and not my graphics strengths, and so that I thought they turned out really well.
Nice. Yeah, they look awesome. And I noticed on your newer boards, you do have graphics.
Yeah. I switched over to Top Sheets this last season. I kind of like it a little better. One of my friends is the graphic designer, so he helped me make just the graphics for the Top Sheets. I just have Shaggy Steez print the top sheets for me. So they're dye sublimated. So they're really nice top sheets. And so I just use them to print the top sheets.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
You were inspired by your friend that was making skis, and you're going to the Jackson Hole Builder Summit. Are you being inspired by those other builders?
Definitely feel like going to the Shaper Summit has just been an amazing opportunity to connect with these other builders, learn some of their processes, add those to my builds. Some of my first builds, I was having struggling with binding issues, and so just learning like what techniques need to be done to make sure you achieve a good bond and things like that. Since I primarily just make split boards at the Shaper Summit, there's really no split boards there, so it's kind of there's not really anything to use as inspiration from that. But I really utilize the show as inspiration for construction techniques and just learning other knowledgeable things for board building.
Yeah, it seems like a great place to bounce ideas and learn from people.
Yeah, it's amazing. One thing I did add to my split boards this year, or this past season, sorry, which was a huge improvement, was I added board clips also between the bindings. So now a typical snowboard that you purchase, a split board that you purchase has just two board clips, one near the tip and one near the tail that hold the board halves together. I added a third between the bindings, and that really helped with the rigidity of the split board itself. Because if you stand on your standard split board and you move you move your feet between each other, you can see the board halves flex or move independently, and I was like, well, there's no way that's good. So that's why I added another piece of hardware there.
Yeah, they get all locked in together nice and tight.
Yeah.
Winding down with questions, I'm at rapid fire part of the interview. Do you have a favorite board you've ever made?
I think, well, for my favorite split board I make is the Peak to Creek. That one is, I feel like that's one I can grab anytime, and it just performs amazing in the backcountry pattern. And then my favorite powsurfer that I made and I still use it primarily today is my Powder Hunter board. Those two boards, that's like my go-to boards.
Nice. And they're just both solid in the powder, easy to tour on.
So they both have a really long tip rocker to them. And then same with the tail. It's a really long, gradual tail rocker. So the board, it just turns extremely smoothly in powder compared to like a sharp tail rocker, which would kind of be more, it'd make more aggressive style turns. Like these two boards just make really smooth turns in proper backcountry powder.
Nice. Your favorite place to ride?
My favorite place to ride is where I live, Highlight Canyon, which is south of Bozeman. It's area that spot that up there that's has a microclimate that just gets pretty significant storms, and a lot of them are sleeper storms. You won't even know it hits up there because it's the area that you ride is above the snowtail site, and if the wind blows in the right direction with the right temperature, it really stacks up, and so that's my favorite place to go. Another reason I like it is because it's a really long approach. It's a 5 mile approach to get to the best riding areas. And so it doesn't attract a lot of people. So you can almost guarantee to get up there and you're always going to have an epic powder day as long as the sun didn't cook the snow or something like that, or a bad wind event.
That sounds awesome, like a quiet powder haven.
It is. That's one thing I really like about it. It's just quiet. No one's up there, just solitude in the mountains there. And that's another aspect I really love about the place too.
That's awesome. If you could ride with one person in the world, who would it be?
The people that influence me the most are some of those Japanese snow surfers and Japanese soft boot carvers. I love their style. I would love to try to emulate their style. So those are the folks that I would just love to go out in the backcountry and surf some snow with.
Yeah, they got some great style. How they turn it just kind of blows my mind. Then tips for future builders. What advice would you have for someone that wants to get into making powsurfers, snowboards, or split boards?
I mean, I think with the resonating thing with anybody that start something that you haven't done before, there's going to be a lot of challenges. I feel I was fortunate enough to utilize my friend's knowledge to, avoid a lot of maybe hard mistakes. I would say trying to connect with another builder that has done it and try to utilize their knowledge to make your own boards would be the biggest help. I think no matter what, it's going to be challenging and hard, and expect your first ski or snowboard to maybe not ride very well, but maybe you're a lucky one that you take it out of the press and it rides amazing. I guess expect to make a few mistakes before you get a rideable, good ski or snowboard.
Yeah, there'll be mistakes along the way for sure. All right, that's all I got for you. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your very unique approach to making pretty much everything that goes into a board.
Thanks a lot, Josh. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good one.
Have a good one, Josh. See ya.
Hope you all enjoyed that interview with Tyler, Storm Surf Powder Products. And a big thanks for Tyler for coming on to the podcast. I'll see you all next week. Thanks, Snow.